related to teen girls, and I should start off by, saying, Bethany, I'm sure that some of you listening to this have at least heard of and hopefully have a chance to read The Anxious Generation by Jonathan Haidt.
Nice.
Excellent book.
Yeah.
I've had a chance to interact with Jonathan. I spent some time with him earlier this year over in Switzerland and just have really been blessed. And he just has such a depth of understanding of these issues. And what's so clear in that book, what the graphs are showing us, is that after about 2012 things started to change in the lives of our young people, and we look at charts that separate boys from girls, something like a hockey stick like change. I know that's a sport that doesn't mean a lot in Hawaii. It's a big deal for us here in Michigan.
Right.
But if you think of a hockey stick that's straight and then goes up at the end of the hockey stick, we started to see changes, especially in graphs related to the well being, the anxiety, self harm incidents, reports of overall life satisfaction started to all go in the wrong direction,
Hmm.
especially when it comes to teen girls. Now, this isn't to dismiss what's going on with our teen boys. The rest of this conversation is going to focus on
Totally.
the girls. The things that are affecting our boys are equally sinister. They just don't show up on graphs yet, right? When it comes to our
Hmm.
boys, it's sort of the triple G problem of girls, gambling, and gaming. And those are issues that teen boys would tell you as a teenager, I feel good. I'm great. And there's nothing, quote, wrong with them.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, those are all the things as young adults that cause them not to launch as young men. So we'll
Hmm.
start to see some of the impacts of those three G's later on that we don't see in graphs that look at ages, say, 13 to 19 or so, like we do with some of the graphs with teen girls. And that's because when it comes to our young ladies, not only do they just develop emotionally, relationally, physiologically sooner than boys most of the time, but they are relational. They want to connect. In other words, the relationship is what's so important. How they measure up with their friends, how they compare themselves to the world. This need to know that they are significant and loved and beautiful is a very natural and early desire in young girls. And this is when we drop them inside of lowercase g, godlike technology that
Hmm.
is designed to give them a disembodied relational experience, right? We are embodied creatures created by God in a physical sense, right?
Hmm.
And technology is a disembodied version of what is best for us. In other words, it's a disconnected, non physical way to connect with somebody in a false way. So it's not going to satisfy in the same way. And that's what we see in these graphs, where we see increases of over 100% in reports of self harm in emergency rooms when it
Oh
comes to
my
girls ages 10
gosh.
to 14, not
Wow.
just in America, but in Canada, in the UK, in Australia, and in New Zealand. Every country that has large populations of teen girls using social media has these same attributes.
Wow.
And this is where we need to have a conversation, right? We talked a lot about pornography, a lot of very obvious sinister things in our previous conversation. These are some of the more subtle ways in which technology is whispering, you're not quite as pretty as you think you should be. You're not
Man.
quite as valuable as you think you should be, right? All of these little whispers that dig into their unique divine value that has been given to them all through this thing that we've put in their pockets. That's the
Mm.
part that is so harmful, I think, to our young ladies. If I could just share a quick quote from a friend of mine. So Dr. Jim Winston, he's a clinical psychologist. He has over 20 years of experience as an addiction specialist. That's his job. He has done this for decades. And he focuses a lot on sort of two phases of human development. For him, the two most significant phases of human development are attachment when children are young, but then adolescence. And the reason for that is in adolescence, the need for, this is a quote from him. He says, the need for social connection is as powerful of an instinct as hunger in a young person.
Hmm.
All they want
Interesting.
is to connect with another person. And so, in the same way that pornography is a distorted, weaponized, less satisfying version of intimacy. Social media is a less satisfying, less fulfilling version of connection. And that's what's so sinister about it in a young lady, because it gives the air of relationship. It gives sort of a masquerading of connection, just like pornography masquerades as intimacy. Social media masquerades as connection, and yet
Mm,
it truly doesn't satisfy. So that's how I would kind
agree.
of connect the two in terms of impacts on gender. Adam, we talked a little bit about why porn is sometimes more toxic to boys. This is why a relational digital environment is sometimes more toxic to young ladies, if that makes sense.